everyone, and welcome back, ready to dive in. Today we're going deep on trusting in something bigger than ourselves. You know, like a higher power.
Okay, yeah.
We'll be looking at this message from the October 2024 General Conference of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Right.
And you definitely don't need to be a scholar to follow along.
Yeah, what I found really interesting about this message is how it uses this story
Uh-huh.
to explore those moments we all feel, that push and pull,
Yeah.
between what we want
Right.
and the idea of like a divine plan.
Right. Like when those two things are totally at odds.
Yeah, exactly.
So they bring up this incredible story about Louisa Barnes Pratt
Mm-hmm.
back in the 1840s.
Okay.
So picture this, right? Your husband, Addison,
Yeah.
gets sent off to preach in the Hawaiian Islands.
Wow.
That alone, I mean,
That's a big.
talk about a leap of faith.
Yeah.
And it gets even more intense. So she's left to take care of their family
Right.
while they're facing like increasing hostility in Nauvoo, and they're forced to flee.
Yeah.
And Louisa has to make this choice: stay put or embark on this crazy, dangerous journey west.
Oh, man.
Can you imagine the weight of that?
I can't even imagine.
She actually talked to Brigham Young,
Right.
not once but twice,
Oh.
to get guidance.
Yeah, it's like when we're uncertain about something,
Totally.
especially something that big,
Huge.
we just want someone to tell us what to do.
Yeah, some kind of sign.
Right.
And what I thought was really interesting is that she was initially very reluctant.
Oh, really?
Like, this wasn't her calling.
Yeah.
It was terrifying.
It makes you think about, like, trusting a higher power.
Mm-hmm.
Or even just trusting that things will work out.
The process.
Yeah.
It's not always, sunshine and rainbows.
Right. It's not always clear.
Sometimes it's about choosing faith even when every part of you is like, no way.
Exactly. It's like this internal struggle.
Totally. It makes you think about those times when you've been afraid to take a leap of faith.
Oh, yeah.
And you know what I realized? It's not about getting something out of it
Yeah.
or having it be easy.
Right.
It's about just trusting, even when it's hard.
Absolutely.
Right.
And what's so fascinating is, like, as Louisa kept going,
Yeah.
her perspective started to change.
Oh, interesting.
Like, she started noticing the beauty in the journey.
Wow. Like what?
The prairie, the wildflowers, all of it.
That's amazing.
Almost like she discovered joy in the trusting part,
That's so cool.
even though it was hard.
Yeah. Have you ever experienced anything like that?
Oh, all the time.
Me too.
Yeah.
Like when you finally commit to some challenging project and you're like, wait a minute,
I'm enjoying this.
this is kind of fun.
Yeah.
And it's interesting, right? We've been talking about a higher power, but it's a bigger idea than that, right?
Right.
It's about surrendering to something bigger than yourself.
Precisely. It's about recognizing, hey, I don't have all the answers.
Right.
Maybe there's a better way, and sometimes that's where the magic happens.
That's so relevant, especially these days when it seems like everybody's questioning everything.
Yeah.
And what's right and wrong feels like it's constantly changing.
Totally. And the message actually talks about this idea of relative truth,
Oh, interesting.
where right and wrong become completely subjective.
There was this one line that really struck me. It said, "Some suggest that we should redraw the lines between right and wrong because truth is relative, reality is self-defined, or God is so generous that he doesn't care about what we do."
Wow.
I know, right?
That's a lot.
It's a big one.
It is.
And this is where the General Conference message comes in with a different perspective.
Okay, yeah.
It's saying that some truths are absolute, set by a higher power for our own good,
Right.
even if we don't get it right now.
Right.
That's a really interesting contrast.
Yeah.
It's like we try to come up with our own truths, like our own rule book.
Right.
But what if there's like a bigger way of looking at things?
Yeah. It takes a lot of humility
Totally.
to admit that maybe,
We don't know it all.
we don't know it all.
Yeah. And that's where, I guess this idea of spiritual guides or teachers comes in.
Right.
Because the message talks about King Benjamin,
Mm-hmm.
who basically said, look, we're human. Our understanding is limited.
Right.
We have to accept that there's a higher wisdom out there.
Right. Like we can't see the whole picture
Yeah.
by just looking at one tiny piece of it.
It's like trying to understand the entire ocean
Exactly.
from a drop of water.
Yes. Yes.
Right. You need those different perspectives.
Right.
Those moments of insight to really get the big picture.
It's like those aha moments, right?
Yes, exactly.
Where you're like, oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
I see what's going on here.
So it's not about like blind faith, right? It's about seeking understanding from different places.
Right, exactly. And those sources, like, they don't always have every single answer.
Right?
Right.
Of course not.
Like, part of trusting the journey, trusting in something bigger than us,
Yeah.
is being okay with a little bit of mystery, don't you think?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Like, how many times have I been like, why is this happening? This makes no sense.
Right.
And then later you're like, oh, okay, I get it now.
It all worked out.
Like, that not knowing was actually really important.
It's part of the plan.
It's like we're talking about trust, but also like acceptance.
Right. And that tension
Yeah.
between wanting to know and being okay with not knowing.
Yes.
I feel like that's where the growth happens.
It's so true. Like, even in stories about faith, not everybody is just like on board right away.
No, exactly.
The message even talks about how some of Jesus's followers, they walked away
Yeah, they couldn't handle it.
when his teachings got tough.
It's hard, right? It's hard to choose faith
It is.
when it's not comfortable.
It's so easy to go with what feels good.
Exactly. What makes sense to us.
Right. Like our limited understanding.
But what about when we come up against something that challenges that?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Right. Do we dig in our heels?
Hmm?
Or do we open ourselves up to something more?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is.
And I love how the message encourages us to look unto something bigger than ourselves, especially when you're starting to feel those doubts creep in.
They stout your doubts.
Have you heard that one?
Yeah, it's a good one.
Before you give up on faith entirely,
Yeah.
look at those doubts.
Really analyze it.
What's going on there?
Yeah.
Is it fear? Discomfort?
Yeah.
Laziness?
Right.
Like, what's fueling those doubts?
It's like we have to be curious about why we're resisting.
Yes.
And it makes me think of the story of Peter, which we've all heard a million times.
Right.
But it's such a good one because it's like Jesus is asking his disciples, are you guys going to abandon me too?
Right.
And Peter, without missing a beat, is like, nope, I believe.
I'm here.
You're it. You're the one. It's amazing because that's right after other people left.
Exactly.
Yeah. He could have easily been like, yeah, this is a little too much for me.
I'm out.
Yeah, I'm going to go. But he chose to trust.
Even when it was hard.
Even when it was hard. It's like he understood that faith isn't about knowing all the answers.
It's that choice, that commitment.
Yes. And the message suggests that those who do that, who stay the course, like you were saying, even when it's hard,
Yeah.
they tap into something powerful.
They do. And you know, there's that quote.
Yeah, what is it?
I think it was Elder Neil A. Maxwell. He said, "The submission of one's will is really the only uniquely personal thing we have to place on God's altar."
Wow. That's powerful.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like saying that surrendering our need to be in control, to have all the answers, that is the ultimate trust.
That's it. That's it. And through that surrender, we open ourselves up to something bigger,
Way bigger.
a power, a peace that we could never create on our own.
I totally agree. Think about those times when you've just completely let go of trying to control a situation.
Oh, yeah.
And then something amazing happens.
Like that you never could have planned for.
Exactly.
Speaking of letting go, the message also talks about this woman who came back to her faith
Yes.
after years of being away.
It's so powerful.
I found her story so compelling.
Me too. The part where she was like, I had made a mess of my life and I knew where I needed to be.
Yeah.
That really resonated with me. What about you? Totally. It's like she hit a wall and was like, okay, I need to go back.
Yeah, she knew.
And that realization, God's ways are better than mine.
It's powerful.
Talk about letting go of control.
It really is. It's like trusting that there's something better out there.
A wiser path.
Yeah, one that we could never even imagine on our own.
It's so easy to get stuck in our own heads, you know?
Oh, I know.
Thinking we have it all figured out.
Yeah, we think our way is the only way.
And this conversation has me thinking about anyone listening who might be, wrestling with their faith.
Absolutely. It's such a personal journey.
Totally.
And it's different for everyone.
Right.
I think the most important thing is that we approach it with, curiosity.
Be open.
Be open, exactly.
To different perspectives.
Yeah, even if it challenges what we think we know.
And, we've been talking about this within, a specific faith.
Right.
But this whole idea, this trusting something bigger.
It's universal.
Everyone can relate to that, right?
We all want that. We're all looking for that connection to something bigger than ourselves.
100%. And whether you find that through religion or nature or art or just being with people you love, it comes down to trust.
It all comes back to trust. Trusting the journey, trusting that there's a purpose.
Even when we don't get it.
Yeah, even when we can't see it.
Wow. That's deep.
It is.
Well, we covered a lot of ground today.
We did. We really did.
The ups and downs of trusting, the power of letting go, surrendering to something bigger.
It's a lot to think about.
It is. So, as we wrap up this deep dive, here's a little something to ponder. How might surrendering to something greater than yourself, whatever that is for you, how might that open up possibilities in your life?
It's a good question.
It is a good question, and as you explore that, be kind to yourself. Be open to new ideas and never, ever underestimate the power of trust.
Well said.
And on that note, until next time, keep seeking, keep exploring, and keep diving deep into those big questions that make life so interesting.